If you're drowning in debt, I can help. I'm not talking in theory, I'm talking I can help you today. If you're interested in getting 3 or 4 or 5 examples that I'm going to give you right now, take out some note paper and write these down. You can be doing this tomorrow. Now, you know that I have over and over said that I believe a YouTube channel is the absolute best way to get rid of any accumulated debt you might have via credit cards or student loans. But people say, well, I need some money just to even do that. So that's what I'm going to give you some examples of, personal examples that I have experienced. They're not theories whatsoever. So here we go. Let's start with the first one. I believe it was in May of this year. We had a knock at our front door. When I opened the door, there was a little teenage girl standing there with a nice pair of jeans and a sweatshirt on. She introduced herself. Her name was Serena, and she said that she was a neighbor. I had never met her, but she said she lived down the street. She wanted to go to camp this summer. She really liked horses, and she wanted to go to a horse camp, but because her mom and dad had 3 other kids and she was number 4, there was no money in the budget for a camp. And she needed to raise, I believe it was $625 to go to this horse camp. And she asked me if there was anything she could do for us that I could pay her for. And I said, yeah, sure, we like to do things like that. So I took her in the backyard and I showed her some yard work that I wanted to have done. I said I thought it would take about 2 hours to get it done. And if she did an excellent job, I would pay her $40 cash for those 2 hours. I showed her where the yard debris container was. I had some trimming that needed to be done. I had some weeds and some gardening areas I wanted pulled. And I said, I'll be back in 2 hours. We'll take a look. I went back in 2 hours and she had done a bang-up job. She even did a little extra for me. So when we finished, I gave her $50. And I said, I'll tell you what, if you're looking to raise, I know you're looking to raise more money. I saw my neighbor Shane next door. He just got a delivery of wood, and I know that's got to be stacked. Why don't you go over and ask him if you stack the wood, would he pay you for that? So she did. She went over, did his wood job for him. As a matter of fact, I think they had to take it around to the back. He's built a new shed out there for his fireplace wood, and she had to use a wheelbarrow to take it around. She took it out there, stacked it all up for him. I don't know what Shane paid him, but I would guess 40, $50, something like that. Well, then Shane told Serena that the people across the street had asked if they could babysit a dog for them while they went to the beach for a weekend. And because Shane had a commitment, they couldn't do it. So Serena went across the street and said she would take care of the dog sitting for 3 days, and they could pay her whatever they wanted. So she went over and she took care of the dogs for 3 days. And I think they paid her about $120. So let's see, that's 120 plus 50, that's 170. Shane probably gave him 40, that's 210. So in a matter of a week, she turned nothing into $210. I happened to see her, I believe it was in August, and she said she had raised plenty of money. She even got some extra money. She's got some regular jobs now where people call her and ask her to come over and do something, and they pay her. So there's an instance right there where a 13-year-old young girl said, I will trade my time and do something you don't want to do if you will pay me for it. And we all did. So there's an example where somebody took nothing, starting from zero. She didn't buy anything. She didn't buy any tools, any equipment, no nothing. All she did was do some work for us in the neighborhood, and she raised enough money to go to summer camp and have a wonderful experience with horses that she's very interested in. So there's an example of something you could do yourself. And I'm not saying it has to be that specific. I'm just suggesting, I'm trying to stimulate your thinking that you can look around and say, what could I do that I could turn whatever talents or time I have, trade that to do for somebody else for dollars. Okay, let's give you another example. I had a guy knock on my door a while back, and he asked me if I wanted to buy some oranges. Well, that was pretty unusual. And he held up this bag, and there was some nice-sized oranges in there. It looked like there was about a half a dozen in there. And I said, yeah, Sharon and I love oranges. We just forget to buy them or don't buy them or whatever. And I said, how much are they? He said, $5 for a bag. They said, give me a bag. So I gave him $5 and I got 6 oranges. And I asked him, I said, do you do this on a regular basis? He says, yeah. He said, I've been doing it about 3 months now. He said, I go to the wholesale place over here where the restaurant people go, and I buy a case of oranges, and then I put them in these bags, and I sell them. And so I said, how many bags do you get out of a case? He said, well, I generally get, I think he said it was 6 bags of oranges. 6 times 6 is 36. I think he said it was 3 dozen in there. He said he could make himself between $15 and $20 per case on each bag of oranges. So when he started out, he had very little money, so he could only do 1 case at a time. But he said now it's developed to where he has a lot of regular customers who depend on him to come over every Saturday, and he brings a bag of oranges. They give him $5 and off he goes. And I think he said it cost him about $2 for the orange. So he's only making $3, but you know, if he could sell 6, 7 bags, let's say 6 bags, that's $20 a day. And if he did that 3 or 4 days a week, he's got himself a little bit extra money. Now, that's not a lot of money, but again, it's just a suggestion for you to think what you might have that you could do the same. I've got some notes here. Oh, this is really an interesting one. I ran across a guy on YouTube a while back, maybe a couple of years ago now, and he calls himself Harry Tornado. I think his name is Josh, and his wife's name, I wrote it down here, Haley. And they have an unbelievable YouTube business. If I remember correctly, Josh said he was an adjuster for an insurance company. He had a regular 9-to-5 job, which he didn't particularly care for. So he started going to the Goodwill, and he bought a couple things, and then he would post them. I think at that time he was using eBay almost exclusively. Move forward about 5 or 6 years, this guy's got a tremendous business, and he uses whatnot. He uses an online auction now, and he buys all kinds of t-shirts and plush animal things that he buys, and they auction them off. It's a live auction. He buys them for what, 50 cents, $1, $5, something like that. Then he auctions them off for $7, $8, $10 and ships them to you. Takes him all of me, well, probably I would guess all combined, maybe a day and a half, and he's making really good money. Now, he's advanced that, but listen to what he did. He got really smart, and he started filming him buying his inventory at the Goodwill or Value Village or wherever he gets his inventory. He's built a whole YouTube channel around that. And I may be speaking out of school, but I wouldn't be surprised if he makes more money on his YouTube channel now than he does in his actual content. But there's something you could easily do. I did that just the other day. We had something we had to sell. I can't remember what it was. Sharon bought me a new tracker for a watch, and I had an old one. So I put it online, and I think I advertised it for $25. Somebody came to buy it. When they came to buy it, they saw that I had a spice rack on a shelf in my garage. When we were out talking, the lady said to me, "Would you sell your spice rack?" Well, I already had a new one. And so it had all the little spice jars and everything. I said, sure, I would sell that. What do you give me for it? She said, well, would you take $15? Sold. So here I had a spice rack that was probably 5 years old with spices in it, sitting in my garage that I hadn't even thought of. But it's that easy to do. There's all kinds of stuff that you've got in your house, I can almost guarantee. And I've never used this online whatnot, but I've seen Josh do it, and it looks pretty darn simple to me. I'll tell you another experience we had when we lived at another house. I had a guy knock on my door one day, a young man, and he said, "Would you like to have your house numbers painted on your curb?" So he said, "I paint them in a reflective paint. And so if an emergency service has to come by at night and they can't see the house number on your building, they could see it on the curb." And I said, "Well, how much do you want to charge me?" He said, "Well, $20. I said, "Sold." A day later, he came and he had a little milk crate. And in the milk crate, he had 4 or 5 rattle cans and some stencils. And his girlfriend was with him. And so I walked outside. He painted about I would guess about an 18-inch strip on the curb black, and then he lettered with the stencil. He spray painted on the numbers of my house, and then he threw a little glass shard up there so that it would reflect if light shone upon it. So I said to him, it took him maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes max. So I said to him, how many of these things do you do? And so he turned to his girlfriend and he said, how many jobs do we have today? And she said, well, we have 9 today. I said, 9 times 20? That's $180 in your pocket at the end of the day. And your expenses are, to get started, maybe $10. He had some extra cans, but he was advanced a little bit. He said, but yeah, this is a pretty slow day for us. It's not unusual for us to have 15 jobs in one day. That's $300 at the end of the day. So there is another idea that can easily get up and started and put cash in your pocket. Very, very little effort. What are these other ideas I've got? Oh, I wanted to talk to you about this. I saw this YouTube channel called Life After 60 with Resting Witch Face. And evidently, this is a lady, I've never known her before, but she got in a bad situation when 60 years old. I'll leave it at that. And she needed to make money. She got fired. She lost her job, and believe me, there's no market if you're 60 plus. I'll guarantee you that. Well, she started doing everything. I think she got an Uber job of delivering food. She was doing pet sitting, and slowly but surely she started a YouTube channel. She had no idea, so she called her grandkids. And one of the grandkids came over and said, okay, Grandma, I'll show you how to do this. They clicked on a YouTube channel. They opened Studio, told you what to do. There's tons of videos on YouTube, on YouTube that can show you how to get a channel up and running. And that's not the way I would suggest it. I've said 100 times that very best way, if you can afford it, is to buy the course that I have a link to down below. That's exactly what I use. So I'm not just recommending something in theory. This is what I'm suggesting you do. But some of you say, well, I don't even have $10 to get started. Well, that's why I'm giving you these ideas where you can trade your time and energy. I remember when I was in college, I had no money. My parents couldn't help me, but I wanted to go to college. And so during the summer, I'd work really hard at labor jobs that paid well and save the money, but it was never enough. And so I think it was the first year, maybe the second year I was in school, I lived in a college dorm on campus. Room and board included 20 meals, but it didn't include the Sunday evening meal. And you can imagine with a dorm full of 19-year-old boys, there was plenty of market for selling some sort of food. So I went out and bought myself a little electric skillet. I'd always had some cooking skills. I knew how to cook a little bit. So I started making fried rice in the dorm, and I would sell it for, I think, 50 cents, 75 cents for a bowl. And I could generate $5, $8, $10 profit. And back then, this is a long time ago, that was about all the expense money I needed because everything else I've already paid for. Well, that worked for a while until the Dean of Men called me and said, Ron, sorry, stop this immediately. You cannot cook in the dorm. So I thought, okay, well, throw that idea away. But then I thought about it a little bit further. He said, well, I can't cook. So then I went to the store and I bought some bread and I bought some mayo and I bought bologna and I made sandwiches and I sold them for $1. And that went really well till a couple weeks later, I got another phone call from the same guy. He said, come on down, we need to talk some more. He said, I told you not to do that. I said, no, you told me not to cook. I'm not cooking. I'm just building sandwiches and selling for $1. He said, okay, let me make it very clear. You don't have any licenses to sell food and you need to stop right now or we're going to throw you out. I said, I got the message. But my point being was because I didn't have some money, I used my mind to try to think, what could I trade for that? What services could I do that somebody else either is willing to do or is willing to pay money for? And those were a couple that I came up with. So those are some ideas for you. And again, I'm not trying to say that's exactly what you should do. I don't know what your skills are, but I can guarantee you this. You have some. You have a way to make some money tomorrow. Not a week from now, not 2 weeks from now, not a month from now. you can make money right away. And that's what I've tried to give you examples for today. Take those to heart, get out and do something. I highly, highly recommend the course in the link down below. Click on that link. It'll take you to a webinar where it's fully outlined exactly what I have done. If you don't know, my background is I'm quite a bit older than you are, and I had no skills at building a YouTube channel, and I've done it using the exact course that I'm recommending. And I can't give you any higher endorsement than the fact that I have done it, and this is what I've used, and you can do the same thing. So again, Ron Mead here, and I'm signing off for today. Thanks for listening. Bye now.